Finishing up in Afghanistan and starting the long trip home, I'm Chuck Holton, and you're watching The Hot Zone.
This is The Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
So I'm officially finished with what will likely be the last embed with American forces I will ever do in Afghanistan. Yeah. And I'm with my new friend Basir, who is a friend of a friend, and he's nice being kind enough to take me to the airport and help me get out of here. Yesterday here in Kabul there were a couple of very large explosions by the Taliban, right?
Not clear.
We don't know for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And unfortunately, one of them was close to Basir's home, and you said you lost some family.
Yes.
Who was killed?
One of the men that he was very poor family.
Okay.
That he was in charge of some big family, and also two of the sisters that they were nurse. They were killed by this bad action. That who did, I don't know, but it was very bad.
Very bad.
So we hope one day peace and stability come to Afghanistan, that we should live together. All the nations in Afghanistan who are living together, they are all our brothers.
Yes.
So we don't have enemy with no parties, just they should come in peace, join and to have a peace, stability in our country.
Yeah.
We hope one day we'll have good peace in our country.
Amen to that. We will pray for that.
Thank you so
We will
much.
ask God to
Thank
grant
you
us
so
peace.
much. Everybody thirsty of the peace.
Yeah, everyone's thirsty for peace, that's for sure. Yes. Except the Taliban, unfortunately.
Yeah, they should come to peace, because there is no way for this party to fight more. Why they fight?
Yeah, it's just more dying, right?
Yes.
More heartache, more hardship, more sadness.
Yeah.
Yes. So what is this square called?
This is called Abdul Haq Square.
Abdul Haqqa.
Yeah, Abdul Haq Square.
Yeah.
He was very famous leaders of Mujahideen. That he were killed with unknown person.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see what the traffic is like here. But this is traffic in Afghanistan. This is how it works. It's just stick your nose in there and hope for the best. Can I roll down?
I will do.
Okay. Okay, so now I'm at the airport in Kabul, and I got here really early because I didn't have much else to do, and with all of the bombs going off in downtown, I didn't want to hang around down there any longer than I had to. So very nice taxi driver, Basir, not even a taxi driver, just a friend of a friend that brought me to the airport, didn't ask a dime, but Hot Zone subscribers helped him out. His wife is sick and needs some medication, so we were able to help him out thanks to you. And that's what we do here. We're making the news a little bit better, one person at a time, just whoever God puts in front of us. And so I just finished what will likely be my last embed of my last trip to Afghanistan. I don't know that for sure, but just the way things are going, it looks like there may not be any more opportunities for embeds with the U.S. military, and that would really be a good thing. I mean, obviously we want this thing to be over at some point. Donald Trump has made it very clear that he wants to bring the troops home and end this thing. Whether or not he can do that successfully, it remains to be seen. Most likely, no matter what, if we leave, things are going to get worse here before they get better, but that's just the way of things. I'm going to talk today a little bit about the U.S. military and their role here in Afghanistan, and I'm going to give it to you straight. It may not make the people I was just embedded with very happy, because obviously they want only happy, joy stories coming out of Afghanistan, if any. And there are plenty of that. And this is, again, nothing I'm about to say will be meant to denigrate the troops, to say anything negative about our troops. If perhaps the leadership is a little more concerned with their next promotion than with getting the story out to the American people, that I suppose can be understandable in some sense. But I'm just going to tell you how my experience has gone over the last week or so here in Afghanistan. Now, when I asked the military to give me an embed, you probably remember, if you've been watching the podcast for a while, I mean, I started this back in like January or February, and making the requests, filling out the paperwork, doing all the steps required to get an embed here in Afghanistan. And I initially got a phone call from somebody here in Kabul that worked for CENTCOM, the public affairs guy, that said, "We don't want you to come. We don't want any stories out of Afghanistan about American troops right now." And I really took offense to that because, of course, as you know, my son Mason is serving here. And, if there's nothing that he's doing that's worth telling the American people about, then they ought to send him home. And I said as much to a 3-star general at the Pentagon when I called him and told him that I wanted to go, and that I thought that I should be allowed to go, because you, the American people, have every right to know what our 14,500 troops are doing here in Afghanistan. What are they spending our money on over here to the tune of $1 billion a week? And they have been for a long, long time. So what are we getting out of our money over here? What's going on? Now, I understand you want to put an Afghan face on the process, an Afghan face on anything positive that's happening over here. I get that, and in reality, we can do that. I mean, we've always done that. Every embed I've ever done here has been putting an Afghan face on the war, and we can do that this time too, but we can also show that the Americans are doing good work in assisting the Afghans in making their country a better place. And in reality, if we're not assisting them in making the country a better place, then we do need to come home. This is, in reality, it's a touchy subject for the U.S. military. They're really in hiding here in Kabul, especially. You don't see them out driving around. They're not doing patrols around the city, per se. There might be some special operations going on here and there, but obviously those guys are mostly working at night. They're working oftentimes in civilian clothes and working alongside Afghan troops. We've talked a lot about this advise and assist role that we have worked our way into. In the context of that advise and assist role, the military is trying very hard to be not seen at all. And so they're staying in their bases, staying behind high walls, very high security, and the only real evidence of U.S. presence in Afghanistan right now are the helicopters that are ferrying people back and forth from one base to another. Nothing wrong with that. That's not necessarily a bad thing. We want to wean the Afghan people off of U.S. involvement, and this is one way we're doing that. I've also gained a better appreciation for why the military was a little bit reticent to have me come over here this trip. One of the colonels I was talking to today was explaining that there used to be over 100 people in his shop just doing public affairs, and now they're down to 8 or 9. Well, they're down to 8 or 9 people, not even troops. A lot of those people are civilians, and they're leaving little by little. Then they don't have much manpower, especially when the regulations state that if I'm going to be here, that I've got to have somebody by my side as a minder or babysitter for the entire time, no matter where I go. As long as I'm not in my room in the barracks, I have to have somebody by my side, making sure I don't take pictures of something I'm not supposed to take pictures of. And the people that they send out with me, very well-intentioned, very professional, very polite, very friendly, but also very timid. That's the best way I can put it. Timid in the sense of they don't know what they might get in trouble for when it comes to me taking pictures of stuff. And so they would rather I just don't take pictures of anything if they had their way. And so every time I take pictures of anything, they start to break out in hives practically. And, oh, wait, don't take pictures. Oh, no, wait, oh, there's a rotor blade in that maybe we shouldn't, that kind of thing. And it's extremely tedious and extremely frustrating from my point of view to try to do my job to show the American people, what our troops are doing over here when they get their panties in a wad because there's some guy half a mile away down the tarmac that's got shorts on because he's a civilian, and we don't want to show that. So even though you can't recognize, from this distance, you couldn't recognize his face, what company he's with or anything, well, we got to crop that out of the picture. There was an incident that happened yesterday morning where very, very early in the morning, I was sleeping in my son's room. And that was very kind of them to allow me to do that. But he got alerted to go somewhere. So it's just after midnight and we just got word of a potential mission. I'm not going to go into the details about it right now until I get permission to do so. But there's a possibility that the medevac unit may have to go out and help somebody. So we're going to hang around for a few minutes and see what happens. So we got the call that this mission was about to go off, and we went down there at night, and it turned out it got postponed. We went back to bed, got awakened a few hours later to do this mission. Now, I went down and talked to the first sergeant, the commander, the pilot that was going to be flying the mission. And I just told them, hey, if there's any way I can get on this flight, I'd love to go. If it's a problem, no problem. I'm with me. I'll stay back. I don't want to get you guys in trouble, but obviously, I'm here to report on what's going on, and this is what's going on. So if there's any way I can get on there, then I'd be happy to do it. And they called upstairs, and did whatever they do. I don't know what they did, but. They came back to me after a while and said, yeah, it's fine, no problem. You can go ahead and go on this flight. So I went, got my gear, and I got on the flight. I, flew out to another base. They picked up a patient. We flew back. It was kind of cut and dried, not a huge deal. Nice flight overall. Other than that, it wasn't no dramas or anything happened on there until later on that day when I finally linked up with my minder after I woke up and told her that I had gone on the flight. I wasn't trying to hide anything. I told her, hey, yeah, we went on this flight. And she went, oh, I think that's not good. And then she ran and called the public affairs officer, who went through the roof. You're not allowed to go anywhere without your minder, and you're just wandering around the base without an escort, none of which is true. You were told not to go on any flights. I did not recall being told not to go on any flights. I had, in talking with the colonel earlier, the day or so earlier, mentioned something about, hey, if you got any operations, I'd love to go on. What I was thinking was, I was kind of being facetious, really, going out and, doing a raid or an ambush or, something like that. And he kind of went, yeah, not happening. She took that to mean, the public affairs officer took that to mean I was not allowed to go on any flights anywhere for any reason, even though I'd already been on one other flight with that unit. And anyway, she really got her undies in a bunch over that. Don't blame her. She's afraid she's going to get in trouble. That's all what it came down to. I certainly did not mean to get anybody in trouble, including her. But there's kind of an inherent conflict between my job and her job. My job is to get the story, to go where things are happening, and to report on what's happening. Her job is to essentially keep me from going where things are happening. And only make sure that I see what the very carefully crafted image that they want me to see. And it's always been that way. It likely always will be that way. They have every right to do that. I'm not surprised or upset that they do it that way. They just, probably don't understand as well as they should that it's my job to go where stuff is going on and to report on that story. There was a time when I first started embedding with U.S. forces where they understood it a lot more. And the commander, I remember very vividly my first trip to Iraq, the commander sitting me down and saying, look, you could tell a bad story about what we're doing here, or you could tell a good story about what we're doing here. I know that we're doing good things, and I know that what we're doing is worthwhile, and I'm not afraid to let you go and see what we're doing because we're doing a lot of good stuff. So he just put me in with their unit and just said, don't do anything stupid, and left me alone. Didn't have a minder, didn't have anybody. And to go back to those days of big boy pants instead of this whole, being babysat by a 26-year-old girl, who literally was probably in diapers when I started doing this job. Not quite, but was in elementary school at least when I started doing this job. That's a little difficult for me to take. I pointed that out to her. We talked about it, and I said, look, you got to understand, I'm a dinosaur here, and I know it. I realize it. I realize that you got to be in fear for your job all the time, and I don't want to get you in trouble. At the same time, it's really hard for me to play politics. It's really hard for me to play politically correct. It's really hard for me to play, don't film, anything that's actually happening, because we only want, rainbows and sunshine here. People get wounded. They're short-staffed. Part of it is that as they say, the crap rolls downhill, so to speak. And so the person that's, tasked with minding me has got to be on the bottom of the totem pole anyway. And they're the one that's going to get the worst of it if I do anything that embarrasses anybody. And so, I understand. I get it. I kind of wish that they would understand a little more that that's not what I'm here for, that I spend a heck of a lot of money to get over here, and that my intent is obviously to show the heroism and sacrifice of U.S. troops. But I can do that and actually do real journalism at the same time. But they don't really want you to do real journalism. And they would probably take exception to me saying that, but from my point of view, that is the God-honest truth. They don't want journalism to happen here in Afghanistan when it concerns U.S. troops. They want rainbows and sunshine and unicorns and gummy bears and good, solid, hometown feel-good stories and nothing else whatsoever. And that's unfortunate because it's not telling the truth to the American people. Now, and if I'm gonna eat their food and sleep in their barracks and ride their helicopters, then I've got to agree to that. And so right now, I'm not able to tell you all the things that went on while I was embedded with that unit. I'm not able to tell you the setbacks and the challenges and the risks that our troops are facing out there on the battlefield. Because I had to promise that I wouldn't in order to do this embed. And that's really unfortunate because it would not take away from the heroism or sacrifice of the U.S. troops. If anything, it would help you understand that much better if I was allowed to tell that kind of story. But I'm not. And so you'll get lots of rainbows and sunshine and gummy bears in the packages that I make for CBN. And that's about it. And I'm sorry about that, but that's what I had to agree to in order to do this embed, and so that's how it is. If you're one of those public affairs officers that I've been with over the last couple of days, I just want to tell you, I desperately want you to understand that I appreciate the situation that you're in with your superiors and the difficulty that you have to face, and that you feel the same frustration that I do in not being able to really tell the stories the way they ought to be told. I know you feel, you don't disagree with me on a lot of this, and I'm not upset, I'm not angry, I just am a little sad. It's just a little unfortunate that journalists are not being allowed to inform the American people about the really substantial good work and sacrifice that is being made by the U.S. troops in the war zone. So I'm on the way home. I just took the last flight probably that I will ever take in Afghanistan with U.S. military. It's likely, and so while I have been talking, I've been showing you the video of that flight because you know, Afghanistan's a beautiful country from the air, and I pray that one day peace will reign in Afghanistan so that you as a tourist can come here and can see this place and enjoy the beautiful scenery that Afghanistan has to offer. They're beautiful people, they're extremely friendly, and it's a lovely, lovely place, minus all of the terrorism and bombs and all that stuff. So let's hope that that goes away soon, that they do come to a peace accord, and that we can someday come back with our families. That's it for the podcast for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on Monday. I'm Chuck Holton. This has been The Hot Zone. I finally made it into the airport, into my gate. I had to go through no less than 7 security checkpoints to get in here. So I'd say I'm pretty safe. So I'm going to celebrate with a basil seed drink with banana. That looks good. Yeah, look at that.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.